Yo, let's just kill the noise for a second. Cut the applause, kill the background music, and breathe. You know why? Because half of y'all are exhausted trying to earn something that was handed to you before you even showed up. Let me ask you something. Who told you you had to prove it? Who whispered that nonsense in your ear? You think you got to grind, hustle, post the receipts, flex on the timeline just to be worth something? Nah, you can't earn what's already been given. Let that marinate. You can't. You don't earn breath, you just breathe. You don't earn your name, it was given. You don't earn love, not the real kind. The real kind, it shows up before you even know what love is. But here you are running like your life depends on it. Clocking hours. Chasing claps from people who ain't even watching. For what? To deserve what you already carry. Listen, you're not on trial here. Nobody's keeping score the way you think. You're not going to buy your way into peace, hustle your way into rest, or impress your way into love. This ain't an audition. You already got the role. You think value comes after the work. Nah, value came before the work. Before you did a thing, you were already chosen. Already known. Already stamped. You're out here starving in a house full of food, trying to earn dinner like you ain't family. You got a seat at the table, but you keep standing in the hallway like you're waiting for permission. You can't earn what's already been given. So what do? You receive it. You walk like you already got it. You stop acting like a stranger in your own story. You stop auditioning for a part that's already yours. And when somebody tries to make you prove it, you smile, walk away, and eat your meal. Stop working for what's been handed to you in full. Stop trying to collect stamps for a passport that's already been approved. And above all, stop dying on a treadmill, chasing what's been sitting in your hands since day one. Let it go. Live different, because you can earn what's already been given. You just got to walk in it. You're not chasing approval. You already had it. That's the part nobody tells you. They'll clap for the hustle. They'll worship the grind. They'll cheer when you burn yourself out, proving you matter. But they won't tell you that what you're killing yourself to get, you already had before you picked up your first tool, before you learned how to impress, before you even knew what success was supposed to look like. See, the problem isn't that you're not good enough. The problem is that you believed the lie that you had to become something to be someone. The truth, you were someone before you ever did anything. Let that land. You were already seen, already loved, already accepted. But somewhere along the way, somebody made you think approval had a price tag. They didn't say it out loud. Nah, they were too slick for that. They showed it to you with withheld praise, with silent treatment, with applause they only gave when you jumped through every damn hoop. And you learned real fast, be good, and they'll like you. Be great, and they might keep you around. Slip up, and it's back to square one. So what'd you do? You became a performer. You got good at wearing the right face, saying the right things, keeping it all together. You built a brand before you built yourself. You turned your life into a pitch deck. And why? Just to earn what should have been yours no matter what approval. Love, worth. But hear me when I say this. You're not chasing approval. Not really. You're chasing the feeling of being safe, being known, being enough. And guess what? You already were. You already are. This isn't some feel-good fluff. This isn't about positive vibes or pretending life is easy. This is about remembering that the thing you're sprinting toward is something you walked away from. Somewhere back there, you traded real for fake. Traded identity for image. Traded acceptance for applause. But the real you, the raw you, that version of you didn't have to perform. That version didn't need validation from likes, followers, bosses, or strangers who don't even remember your name 5 minutes after you leave the room. The truth is, you were approved before the grades, before the money, before the awards, before you learned how to be charming or useful or put together. You had it before you got good at pretending. You had it when you were messy, when you were loud, when you were insecure and trying to figure out why people only showed up when you were shining. Look, you can build a whole empire trying to make people like you. But if you don't know you were already worthy, you'll die in a castle full of strangers. Real approval doesn't come from earning. It comes from being. And the people who matter, they don't need you to perform. They don't need you to hustle your way into their hearts. They just want you to come home. But here's the twist. The hardest thing to do in a world that worships performance is to just be, to rest, to accept, to stop reaching and start receiving. Because we've been programmed to believe that anything free must be fake. If it wasn't earned, it must not be real. But that's a lie. Sometimes the most powerful things in life are the ones you didn't do a damn thing to deserve. Grace, love, favor, presence, identity, gifts. They are gifts, and gifts can't be bought. They can only be received. So stop grinding for approval that was already spoken over your life before you ever stepped on the stage. Stop begging for claps from people who ain't even your audience. You're not chasing approval. You're trying to remember you had it all along. You're not trying to become enough. You're trying to remember you already are. So take the weight off. Step out of the spotlight. Sit down at the table that already has your name on it. You're not an outsider. You're not a mistake. You're not a project in progress trying to earn access. You're already in. You're already loved. You're already seen. The only one who still needs convincing is you. But that ends today. Grace ain't a transaction. It's a gift. See, we live in a world that only knows how to operate in trade. You give me this, I'll give you that. You work hard, you get paid. You behave right, you get love. You act how I want, I'll stick around. Everything's conditional. Everything's earned. So naturally, when we hear about something like grace, real, raw, no strings attached grace, we flinch. We don't know what to do with it. We look at it sideways like it's a trap because nothing's ever free, right? But grace is different. Grace doesn't play by the rules. It doesn't show up with a contract or a scoreboard. It shows up when you least deserve it. It shows up when you're at your lowest, when you've blown it again, when you got nothing left to offer. That's when grace kicks in and says, yeah, I know. I'm still here. And that messes people up because we've been raised to think our worth is tied to our wins. If we fail, we're out. If we fall, we got to earn our way back. And if we get anything good, we better prove we deserve it or risk having it taken away. So we bring that mindset into every relationship, every opportunity, even into how we view ourselves. We start believing that grace has a price tag, that we have to hustle for mercy, that we have to perform for love. But grace doesn't charge, it covers. It says, I see the mess. I'm still not leaving. It says, you're not too far gone. It says, you're not defined by the worst thing you've done. And that kind of grace, it changes people. Not because it forces them to change, but because it creates a space safe enough to change. It doesn't shame you into becoming better. It invites you to see that you already mattered before you even started trying. But here's the catch. You got to stop trying to buy what's been given for free. You keep coming to the table with receipts, with accomplishments, with guilt, with apologies wrapped in performance. You think if you just say the right words, act the right way, fix enough stuff in your life, then you'll be worthy of the good things. Then you'll be enough for someone to stay. Then you'll qualify for peace, for love, for rest. But grace was never about qualification. It's about recognition. It doesn't show up because you earned it. It shows up because you needed it. And it doesn't come in small doses either. It floods in. It overwhelms. It's reckless, unfair, completely unreasonable. And still, it shows up with your name on it. That's why grace offends people. It doesn't make sense. It gives to people who haven't paid. It covers people who screwed up. It says, you're forgiven before you even get the apology out of your mouth. And in a world addicted to fairness, grace is offensive because it's not fair. It's better than fair. Now, don't get it twisted. Grace ain't soft. It's not weak. It doesn't ignore the damage or pretend pain didn't happen. But it looks the damage in the face and says, this doesn't define you. It calls out the truth and then covers it with something stronger than shame. And the wildest part, you don't have to chase it. You don't have to perform for it. You don't have to earn it. You just have to let it in. But that's the hardest thing for some of y'all. You've built your whole life on effort. You only feel valuable when you're producing something, when you're fixing things, when you're doing. So when grace shows up and says, put your hands down, I've got this, you panic. Because now what? Who are you if you're not earning your place? Let me tell you, you're still worthy, still loved, still chosen, even when you're not doing a damn thing. Grace reminds you that you're not the sum of your effort. You're the product of a gift you didn't create. So let it hit. Let it wreck the fake rules you've been living by. Let it remind you that you're not a transaction. You're not a deal to be negotiated. You're a person, a soul, a story. And grace, it's been chasing you the whole time, not because you're perfect, but because you're worth it. No receipts, no resume, no need to perform. Just breathe and receive it. Stop grinding for what's been handed down. There's something tragic about watching someone sprint full speed towards something that was already sitting in their lap. It's like watching a person dig through dirt for treasure that's literally in their hands. They just don't believe it's real yet. That's what most people are doing right now. Burning out, losing sleep, wrecking their minds and bodies, all because they think they have to earn what's already been given, what's already in their possession. But the truth is, some of the most important things in your life, identity, value, worth, calling, those aren't trophies you hustle for. They're inheritances. Let's talk about that word, inheritance. Nobody earns an inheritance. It's passed down, it's given, not because you were good enough, not because you did all the right things, but because of who you are, your name, your bloodline, your identity. And if you got something passed down to you, guess what? That means you didn't work for it, you received it. But we don't know how to receive. We've been trained from birth to grind, to earn, to prove. If it ain't hard, it ain't real. If it doesn't cost blood, sweat, and tears, it must not be valuable. So when something comes easy, or worse, when something is just given, we feel suspicious, unworthy. Like we need to make ourselves miserable first to truly deserve it. That mindset will kill you. Slowly, quietly, painfully. You'll live your whole life as a slave to a standard that was never meant for you. You'll perform instead of walk in purpose. You'll hustle instead of rest. And worst of all, you'll miss the very thing you were born to carry because you'll be too busy chasing it. You ever see a rich kid act broke? Like they've got access to everything, but still live like they're in survival mode? That's what a lot of us are doing. Spiritually, emotionally. We've been handed peace, love, purpose, grace, and we're still out here grinding like we're not allowed to touch it unless we bleed for it. Why? Because somewhere along the line, someone convinced you that rest was laziness, that ease was weakness, that if you weren't constantly proving yourself, you were worthless. And now you can't sit still. You can't breathe. You can't even enjoy the life you do have because you're too focused on chasing the one you think you're supposed to earn. Let me hit you with something uncomfortable. Some of you don't need to hustle harder. You need to sit down and remember what's already yours. You're not working for identity. You're working from it. You're not grinding for value. You're living with it. There's a difference between ambition and addiction. Ambition pushes you forward. Addiction keeps you running in circles. So ask yourself, are you building something? Or are you just running from the fear of being not enough? You got to stop. Stop grinding for love. Stop grinding for approval. Stop grinding for belonging. Those things already yours. And when you finally understand that, everything shifts. Your work becomes expression, not desperation. Your goals become passion, not validation. You move from I have to into I get to. You start waking up with peace instead of panic because the weight's off. The performance ends. You finally start living instead of proving. Don't get it twisted. This doesn't mean you stop working hard. It means your hard work isn't chained to your identity anymore. You're not trying to be somebody you already are. You're not trying to get permission. You already have access. You're not an outsider clawing your way in. You're an heir walking into your inheritance. So stop grinding like you're empty. You're not. Stop chasing like you're forgotten. You're not. Stop hustling for scraps when the table's already set in your name. The grind is only noble when you're building something that matters. But if you're just grinding to deserve what's already yours, that's not strength. That's fear dressed up as ambition. Stand up. Look around. You're already in the house. You don't need to break in. You just need to stop running and start receiving. What's been handed down to you doesn't need to be earned. It just needs to be lived in. So live. Earned doesn't mean deserved. And deserved don't always mean earned. That line right there, it'll mess with your head if you've spent your whole life being told everything is black and white. You get what you earn. You deserve what you work for. Simple, right? But life ain't simple. Life is messy. Life doesn't always follow formulas. And when you start confusing earning with deserving, you start building your identity on a lie. See, a lot of people are out here walking around thinking they're not worthy because they haven't done enough, haven't achieved enough, haven't earned their spot at the table. So they sit in the back, they stay quiet, they play small. Not because they don't want more, but because they've convinced themselves they don't deserve more. And why? Because they haven't reached some imaginary benchmark that says, you're finally good enough. But let me flip that. You ever meet someone who earned a whole lot, degrees, money, status, but they treat people like garbage? They walk around entitled, thinking they deserve the world just because they worked hard. That's the other side of the lie. Because sometimes people earn things without deserving them. They check every box on paper, but their character's bankrupt. They got the resume, but they lack the heart. So they climb the ladder, step on whoever they need to, and call it success. And you know what? That kind of winning is empty, because when your life is built on earning and deserving, you lose sight of grace, of humility, of the fact that not everything good in life is something you can grind your way into. Some things, you can't earn them, and you don't deserve them. They're just given. Mercy, given. Forgiveness, given. Love, given. Purpose, given. Breath in your lungs this morning, given. You didn't hustle for that. You just woke up. But that messes people up, doesn't it? Especially if you've tied your worth to your work. Because if you didn't earn it, how can you deserve it? If you didn't sweat for it, how can you receive it with a straight face? Here's the truth: your value doesn't rise and fall with your performance. You don't become more or less deserving based on how many hours you grind or how flawless your life looks. That's the myth we've been sold. That's the system we've been trapped in. But real life, real worth, it doesn't always play fair. And that's the best news you'll ever hear. Because if you've ever felt like a failure, like you're behind, like everyone else is ahead of you on some invisible scoreboard, this is your reminder that grace ain't a reward. It's a rescue. It shows up when you least expect it and whispers, you don't have to earn this. You don't have to deserve it. You just have to accept it. That's not weakness. That's freedom. And freedom is dangerous to a world built on control. See, when people start realizing they're already enough without earning it, you can't manipulate them anymore. You can't guilt trip them into burning out. You can't shame them into silence. They stand taller. They speak louder. They stop apologizing for taking up space. That's why this matters. Because too many people are living under the weight of a scoreboard that was never meant to measure their soul. Too many people think they have to do more, be more, fix more before they're allowed to feel whole. And they're drowning in not enough because they think deserving is some finish line they've never reached. But let me be clear. You were already worthy before the achievement. You were already loved before the title. You were already enough when you had nothing to show for it. You're not your work. You're not your wins. You're not your failures either. So yeah, keep grinding, keep building. But don't confuse the reward for the reason. Don't lose your soul in the name of trying to prove something. Especially when the thing you're trying to prove is that you deserve what's already been yours from the start. Earned doesn't mean deserved. And deserved don't always mean earned. But grace, identity, love, you don't earn that. You live from it. You can't hustle your way into something that was never based on hustle in the first place. That's the part that burns. Because some of us got real good at grinding, real good at becoming what people wanted, real good at performing, achieving, executing. We learned early on that if we worked harder than everyone else, maybe we'd finally feel like we belong, maybe we'd be seen, maybe we'd be chosen. So we laced up our shoes and ran faster, louder, longer, hoping at the end of all this effort, we'd arrive at enough. But what if the finish line doesn't even exist? What if you've been sprinting on a treadmill, convincing yourself it's a marathon, you're sweating, you're exhausted, your legs are on fire, and you're still in the same place? Because no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you achieve, there's this quiet voice in the back of your mind that keeps whispering, it's not enough. You're not enough. And instead of confronting that lie, you try to outrun it. But you can't outrun something that lives inside you. And here's the truth. The reason your hustle isn't healing that feeling is because hustle was never the solution. You're trying to earn something that was never tied to effort, worth, belonging, identity, peace. You can't hustle your way into those. They're not bought, they're not achieved, they're received. And that's hard to swallow when you've built your entire identity on achievement. Some of you only feel safe when you're producing, when you're performing, when you're impressing. You think if you stop, everything will fall apart, including your sense of self. So you keep moving, you keep grinding, not because you love the grind, but because you're terrified of what silence might say to you. But let's be real. When's the last time you sat still and felt proud of who you are without doing anything? When's the last time you looked in the mirror and said, I'm good? Not because of your resume, not because of your hustle, not because of your image, but because you exist. Most people can't even make eye contact with themselves when there's nothing to prove. That's how deep the hustle identity runs. We've turned effort into self-worth. We've turned busy into value. We've turned burnout into a badge of honor. But none of that leads to the freedom you're looking for. That leads to exhaustion. That leads to bitterness. That leads to waking up one day and realizing you've built a life full of noise and none of it sounds like you. Let me hit you with this: rest is not weakness. Receiving is not laziness. Grace is not a shortcut. You don't have to do more to be more. You don't have to earn what's already been freely spoken over you. And if you keep trying to hustle your way into identity, you're always going to feel like an imposter, even when you win. Because deep down, you'll know the version of you that's being celebrated isn't the real you. It's the curated version. The one you created to survive. The one you wear like armor, but you can't be loved if you're never seen, and you can't be seen if you never stop performing. You want peace. Lay the hustle down. You want identity? Strip off the mask. You want belonging? Stop begging for a seat and realize the table's already got your name carved into it. You weren't created to hustle for your worth. You were created to walk in it. You weren't designed to live life in a constant audition. You were made to live from a place of already being chosen. You're not chasing acceptance. You're recovering from forgetting it was always yours. So stop trying to hustle your way into something that's not based on hustle. That's not how this works. That's not the system grace operates in. Grace shows up when you're empty, when you've got nothing left, when you finally admit the hustle isn't healing the achy inside. And when that moment hits, when you finally pause, finally breathe, finally listen, you'll realize you've had it backwards this whole time. You never had to run to become worthy. You just had to stop running long enough to remember that you already are. There's a deep kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from becoming someone you're not, just to feel like you're enough. That's the kind of tired people don't talk about. The kind where your body might be fine, your calendar might be full, your achievements stacked up like trophies, but your soul's worn out. And not because of the weight of your responsibilities, but because of the weight of constantly trying to prove you deserve what you already had the right to from the start. It's like wearing a mask every day, hoping the world claps for it loud enough that you forget it's not your real face. You smile right, speak right, perform right, all while secretly hoping someone, anyone, sees through the act and tells you you don't need it anymore. Have that you're enough as you are, that you're not loved for the version you created, but for who you really are underneath the pretending. But that's the twist, right? Because somewhere deep down, you stopped believing the real you was worth showing. You thought, if I strip this all away, the effort, the image, the accomplishments, will there be anything left worth loving? Yes, there will. There always was. The lie that built this whole performance house you're living in is simple. You are what you do. And if you're not doing something impressive, something visible, something praiseworthy, then you don't matter. So we internalize that. We start attaching our identity to our productivity, our value to our results. We treat rest like rebellion. We treat stillness like failure. And worse, we start viewing love, grace, peace, all the good things, as something we have to earn access to, like they're VIP rooms in the club of life, and we're stuck outside unless we hit a certain level. But what if the door was never locked? What if it was open the whole time and you just never walked in because you were too busy trying to pay for a ticket that was always free? That's the truth that unravels everything. You were already enough. Not because of what you've done, not because of what you've proven, but because of who you are, the real you, the quiet you, the still becoming you, the one behind the mask, the one that doesn't need to earn it because it was already spoken over you before you even had a chance to try. And I get it. That sounds unbelievable because we live in a world that's addicted to performance, a world that claps louder for people who hustle harder, a world that rewards image over authenticity every damn time. So, of course, when you hear, you don't need to earn what's already yours, your first instinct is to reject it, to argue with it, to say, nah, not me. Maybe other people, but I still got work to do before I'm worthy. And nah, that's the trap talking. That's the voice that keeps you grinding for gold that's already buried inside you. That's the voice that wants you too busy to ever stop and realize you don't need to chase what's already true. You're not broken because you rest. You're not unworthy because you failed. You're not less valuable because you're still figuring it out. You're human. And grace was made for humans, not hustlers. Grace walks in the room when you're flat on your back, out of breath, questioning your whole life, and it says, you still belong, you still matter, even now. It's not about quitting life. It's not about being lazy. It's not about dropping responsibility. It's about dropping the performance that says you're only as good as your results. Because when you live from that lie, no win is ever enough, and no failure is ever recoverable. But when you finally believe what's been true the whole time, that you don't have to earn what's already been given, you start living differently. You stop proving and start breathing. You stop chasing and start receiving. And that changes everything. You don't need to perform to matter. You don't need to hustle to belong. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You just need to be real. Because grace doesn't ask for a mask. It doesn't require a highlight reel. It meets you in the mess and says, I see you, and I'm still not going anywhere. So maybe today is the day you stop trying so hard to become enough and start remembering you always were.